Thank you all so much for coming. I'm extremely excited and appreciative that you're all here. This subject is near and dear to my heart, obviously. I'm very, very passionate and mission driven about getting the good news out that hopelessly ill people can get well. Before I dive into the content, though, I want to just take a minute and thank my team. Dawn, Julie, Miriam, Justine, Jen, Lisa, you guys have done so much to pull this off tonight, and without your hours and hours and hours of hard labor, this wouldn't be happening. So thank you to my team. And especially to my husband Jerry, who without him none of this would be happening at all. So he really is a huge support and a fantastic leader. So one of the questions that I get pretty frequently is, why are we seeing so much more chronic illness? Lyme disease, okay? A hot topic. I had a Lyme disease diagnosis and mold illness, also just mystery illness. What is going on? And I wanted to throw up a slide to show a statistical graph. This is not the right slide. What happened to my slide? Well, okay. Well, we'll just use this one. So the first slide that didn't show up here, but showed an exponential rise in autoimmune diseases, according to the American Association of Autoimmunity. And MS, ulcerative colitis, diabetes, many of these illnesses are absolutely skyrocketing, and especially in the last 10 years. This is a graph that Dr. Stephanie Seneff from MIT likes to use when she talks about children on the autism spectrum. If you can see those yellow bars from 1991 through 2010, you can see how fast that has risen. But what you're not seeing is from 2010 through 2023, it's gone up even faster. So Dr. Seneff also really likes this graph because she uses the red line there to show how the application of glyphosate, the main ingredient in Roundup, has been sprayed on U.S. corn, soy, and wheat almost at the exact same rate that autism has risen in this country. So she truly feels that, those two are highly related. I wanted to show you a picture of myself and my husband. This is me at age 22. So gotta love those 1980s big hairdos there. At that time, the 22-year-old me would have said, I have great health. I have no problems with my health. Although I was having some stomach problems, some stomach pain, a lot of food reactions, bloating, constipation, some low-level anxiety, not really about anything, just kind of low-level anxious all the time, some weird leg and back achiness and tiredness, which was a little unusual for a 22-year-old, but I thought, no big deal. This is just me. I'm fine. I'll push through it. And some restless leg syndrome. But I often think about that girl. And I often think, if I could go back in time, what would I have said to her? Because I would really love to have had a conversation with her. I would really have loved to have shared with her so much of what I know today, what I've learned about why chronic Lyme disease is so difficult to beat in some people, why autoimmunity is skyrocketing, and why chronic mysterious illnesses are so difficult to diagnose. I would have told myself, you are going to see many doctors, and here are some of the things you are going to hear from them. Mrs. Haselmayer, we can't find anything wrong with you. All your labs are normal. We just think this is stress or anxiety. Of course you're tired. You have 3 kids. Have you ever considered that this is just depression? Have this antidepressant. But I'm telling you, I feel like I have the flu every day. Well, we can't find anything wrong with you. you know, I did get a small handful of them based on a positive ANA to tell me that I had some autoimmune disease, but you know, this is just a chronic positive ANA that you have. It doesn't, we're just going to watch it. There's really nothing we can do for you. I was also told I had bad genetics, that your genes just love Epstein-Barr virus, and this is why you're so tired all the time. There's really nothing we can do about it. I was told you have chronic fatigue syndrome, you have fibromyalgia, you have interstitial cystitis, one autoimmune condition, one chronic condition, one syndrome illness after the next just kept hitting me, and I didn't understand why my life seemed to be so cursed with all of these illnesses. The syndrome of unknown origin was really delightful to hear. Well, your body's attacking itself, but we don't really know why. But, you know, we'll manage your symptoms as best we could. You'll need this medication for the rest of your life. This went on for over 15 years. It was an utter, incomplete nightmare, and nobody, my family, my parents sitting right there, my husband, Jerry, my kids were tremendously supportive, but they didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to do. If the doctor says there's nothing wrong with you and you look fine, you seem fine, I guess you're okay. I just figured I'll just never get better. I got quite hopeless. So another thing I would have told myself at that age is, Theresa, the medical system that you serve and that you believe in fervently, yeah, they get an A on acute care. They're going to save your life if you have a heart attack, a stroke, if you have a difficult childbirth experience, which I did with my oldest son. So thankful, so grateful. They can save our lives from cancers, from difficult childbirth situations. But what you're going to learn the hard way, Theresa, is that chronic illness and autoimmunity, and especially Lyme disease that you're going to fall, is going to land you in a huge crack in the system. And that crack basically was assigning this label to this symptom constellation of symptoms that we see in you, and assigning that ICD-10, ICD-11 code to the appropriate drug. And yet nobody was asking the question, why is this happening? Leading doctors at the Cleveland Clinic, Mark Hyman, functional medicine, are all talking about this thing. We're not just diagnosing these things better, the incidence is growing. And so I'm going to dive in there and talk about why. Why are we having these exponential increases? Just like the graph that you saw with the glyphosate being correlated with the autism spectrum disorders, many scientists, researchers, award-winning physicians are finding direct correlation between foreign molecules, man-made molecules that are completely unique to our generation, correlating with disease, chronic disease. Now, as I'm talking to my young self, I'm like, I wonder if she'll believe, because she feels pretty good. So I'm gonna pull out some labs. I'm gonna try to convince her, and so I'm going to show her that glyphosate, when we test her urine, is really very high. In fact, I was tested over the years very high for mercury and lead, and eventually I found mold and uranium and glyphosate. And so as I have gone through the years in my healing process, I have been able to discover why my body got so sick, why my body crashed over Lyme disease, even though I hadn't been bitten by a tick since I was 13 years old, and I didn't get sick till I was 36. So the labs I would have showed myself to try to help convince myself that you are already, right now, even though you think you feel fine, even though all you're having is a little stomach pain, a little anxiety, you are building up these man-made chemicals that are unique to the last 50 years in your body, and they are messing with your immune system and your hormones. I would have told myself, Theresa, take action now. Don't wait. Take action now. Even though you're feeling okay, you just have a few small symptoms, you will want to start detoxifying your body now, and you will want to start avoiding environmental toxins so that you don't end up in that huge ditch, so that you don't end up in that huge hopeless crack where you were despairing for life itself. So I'm going to jump in there and talk about what some of these toxins are that we have learned about. So heavy metals, radioactive uranium. So come to find out that I grew up near the 5-mile radius of Fernald, a Superfund site on the northwest side of Cincinnati, and none of us knew that for 40 years that the Fernald plant was leaching radioactive uranium from the uranium enrichment plant. There were the studies that came out later were able to prove that the top symptoms or the top diseases diagnosed from uranium in that area was prostate cancer, lung cancer, lupus, thyroid disease. My father ended up with the prostate cancer, my mother with the lung disease, even though she never smoked, and then I had positive lab markers for lupus. And so, to me, it's not so coincidental that some of those exposures played in to that illness, but it wasn't something where, wow, I felt sick right away, I dropped over dead. It was something that accumulated very slowly over time and created that leaky gut syndrome over time. Thorium, lead, when uranium is metabolized in the body, it breaks down to thorium. Another highly disruptive metal for endocrine glands. So people have these hormonal imbalances. I wonder, okay, which Superfund site have you been exposed to in your lifetime? And when people get digging, they often find. Or what unique exposures maybe were you exposed to through your water and your food growing up? Lead. When radioactive uranium breaks down to thorium, then it breaks down to lead in the body. So my body was high in lead and in mercury. My dental fillings were leaching mercury. The ADA told me, no, it doesn't. But then the Holistic Society of Dentists did have the science to show that the silver fillings in my mouth, I had 12 of them, and you know, in the general population were leaching mercury, one of the most highly neurotoxic chemicals in the world, uranium and mercury. So the anxiety could have been directly correlated with mercury and with lead, the autoimmunity. Cadmium from cigarette smoke, secondhand smoke, gadolinium that is injected when you have contrast dye. Now, am I against getting contrast dye? No, I'm not. If you need an MRI that's going to diagnose something that you absolutely have to have, I'm not against it, but you will want to detoxify your body from gadolinium, which is something that we find on testing all the time. Arsenic, aluminum, oftentimes found in gut-based disorders, in IBS, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, aluminum coming from aluminum cans, coming from shots. Mercury, another source of mercury is fish. We have found that most freshwater fish is high in mercury and PCBs. And wild caught fish is better, but you're still going to get some levels of mercury. However, the worst is from the dental fillings and from shots. So your air will end up you can pick up some of these heavy metals from the air. If there are manufacturing plants near you that are putting into air pollution, we're absolutely finding heavy metals in our water. If you go to the Environmental Working Group, you will see what they are finding in your water. It's an independent lab, and oftentimes they are finding chromium-6, the same chemical found in the Aaron Brockovich movie. We don't have any idea what is coming in through our water and food. Herbicides and pesticides, this is huge. When we scan people, Lisa and Jen and I in our office, we find glyphosate, 2,4-D, and organophosphate pesticides in most people. And the CDC has published data. They absolutely know that 95% of the population is walking around with the metabolites, the breakdown products of DDT. That was a bedbug spray back in the 1970s that was banned because they found that it was so hard to break down, it was so destructive to the human body that they banned it, but we're still finding it in people's urine today. So we know that it's persisting, we know it's getting passed from mother to baby, and many of the leading research and doctors that I am training with, they are extremely concerned about babies coming into the world today because we are finding over 287 environmental toxins in their cord blood, in their meconium at birth. So we've got these skyrocketing rates of autism and sensory processing disorders and autoimmunity in kids because they're literally coming into the world with a toxic bucket full. Chlorpyrifos, I mentioned DDT, atrazine, very, very, very hormone disrupting herbicide, commonly sprayed in the Midwest. 2,4-D is the active ingredient from Agent Orange over in Vietnam. Extremely damaging to the human gut, to the human microbiome, but it was rebranded in the United States and is sprayed with Roundup because Roundup stopped working so well. The weeds are resisting, so we added 2,4-D to help it work better. Other daily use endocrine disruptors, parabens, phthalates, BPA. BPA is found in most hard plastics. Again, the CDC has published data that they are finding BPA in 97% of Americans. It is getting into our body. It is a phenomenally disruptive chemical for hormones. They are finding that men under the age of 50 with erectile dysfunction problems and testosterone problems often will have very high levels of BPA in their body. BPA was taken out of a lot of products, and so you'll see this label, and it's very misleading because what actually happened was when BPA was taken out, BPS was put in. And BPS, what we have learned, is just as toxic, if not more so. Sorry, this keeps changing itself here. Parabens found in many personal care products, lotions, makeup, phthalates, and fragrance, and also in soft plastics. Laundry fragrance? Jerry and I laughed because I used to use those scented beads, and I had a towel or a blanket that I washed 6 years ago in those laundry beads, and it still smelled very strong of that scent 6 years later. I had to wash it like 3 times just to get the fragrance out of it. Those fragrances are extremely, again, damaging to hormones when your hormones are disrupted. And when your immune system is disrupted, your basic metabolic processes stop working. Guess what? Things break down. You have hormonal imbalances, you have emotional problems, you have gut problems. PFAS, I don't know why that slide is so wonky, PFAs, these are the carbon, the molecules created by DuPont for nonstick skillets and 3M for Scotchgard. And so nonstick cookware, fast food packaging, microwave popcorn, it's very often found in makeup products because it helps that makeup and those lotions glide on oh so nicely, just get absorbed right into your skin. So those makeup products that I was wearing over the years, those nonstick skillets I was cooking on, we all cooked on those in the 1980s and 90s. All the microwave popcorn that I ate working at the hospital, it was so quick to pop it in the microwave and eat it. Those PFAS are considered by leading scientists to be forever chemicals. In other words, they tell you once it's in your body, it's never coming out. However, we are finding a way to get them out. So that's the good news. I don't know what happened to my slides. They're getting cut off here. What happens to the microbiome? So Lynn mentioned it, I think Liz mentioned it. The microbiome is the normal collection of bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi in your body. And the World Health Organization studied this and realized that we aren't sterile. We have these things in our body, and they are integral in immune system health. What we've learned is that many of these heavy metals, pesticides and herbicides, and PFAS also disrupt that gut microbiome. So they're killing off the good bacteria, the lactobacillus, the bifidobacteria, and what happens is then the bad bacteria, the Lyme disease, the co-infections of Lyme, the Clostridia, the C. diff, the Staph, the MRSA, the Aspergillus, the resistant Candida, those things are able to take advantage and to overgrow because the good guys got killed off. And Jen's going to go into more detail in her talk. So what happens when you start killing off the good guys and then the bad guys can just proliferate? You end up with gut symptoms and anxiety, and then you end up with chronic inflammation, and then you end up with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, and you end up with an inability to detoxify mold. So water-damaged buildings are very common, and they didn't seem to be much of a problem until about the last 15, 20 years. Part of the problem is we have tightly wrapped houses because we want to save on our fuel bills, and so toxic mold has much better chance of growing. And when someone like me has a collection of mercury, uranium, lead, PFAS, pesticides and herbicides in their body, I cannot detoxify well. And that's why, and the genetics do play in. Some people detoxify better than others. That's why some of us end up so sick and others are fine. So if I have thoroughly scared you by now, I apologize. That's not my intent. I don't want people going out of here feeling terrified. The reason I'm educating you is because, so you're the 22-year-old me. I just want you to know. I want you to know what you're up against. I want you to know that you can take ownership over your health. Don't just put it all in the hands of your doctor. Your doctor is a great, smart person, and they're going to do everything they can to help you. But take responsibility. Work on keeping these things out of your body. I have a handout that I put on everybody's table to give you all types of tools for how you can help keep these things out of your body and prevent these illnesses. So good air filters can help if you live in an area with air pollution or you suspect mold and mycotoxins in your air. Your water, everybody should have a water filter these days, especially in the light of East Palestine. At least a zero water pitcher or a Berkey. Many of us are going to reverse osmosis or distill because we just don't want to take any chances with these things coming in the water. Your food, eat as much organic as you can because you don't want 2,4-D and glyphosate coming into your body through GMO food. Your skincare, go to environmentalworkinggroup.com and find the cleaner products instead of the more toxic products and the products with the phthalates and the parabens. Your home care products, there are many, many good options for cleaner home care products. Okay, improvements. So there are many improvements that can be made if you already have Lyme disease and you are feeling stuck. If you already have an autoimmune disease, you were like me. You didn't know all of these things are coming into your body. You didn't know that that tick bite that you got 20 years ago was going to come out of hiding and make you extraordinarily ill once your toxic bucket got really, really full. There are many things that you can do, and these were the things that I had to really press into. Today, I wasn't able to go into all my symptoms, but I was nearly bedbound at one point. My mother came over and did my shopping for me. I couldn't walk to the mailbox. I couldn't drive my car. I missed so many of my kids' activities. But today, I get up at 5 a.m. every day. I go to bed at 9, 10 o'clock at night. I work out every day. I have no pain, no fatigue. Interstitial cystitis is gone. Fibromyalgia is gone. Chronic fatigue is gone. TMJ is gone. Things that you think you can never get rid of. And these are the things that Jen and Lisa and I and my team see in our office every day. When we start removing these highly toxic things from our body with the tools that we have. Lisa's going to come up in just a few minutes and talk about the Ion Cleanse Detox Foot Bath that Gina so generously demonstrated here. That has shown to help tremendously in getting these chemicals that I talked to out of your body. And there are actually great binders. Those are capsules that you can take to also grab a hold of those heavy metals, that uranium, and get that out of your body. And so many of us who are sort of pioneering in this space are learning about these things and coaching people how they can take action now to help their body heal itself. So this talk really is not about scaring you. This talk is about empowering you. Just like I wish I could go back and empower my young self and convince her to take action now, even though she felt good. There are so many things that you can do for yourself and for your children to decrease the numbers of toxins that you are exposed to on a regular basis. And also, there's many proven therapies to reduce that load of accumulated toxins. There are saunas, there are foot baths, there is IV chelation. There's many, many things. I'm sorry I don't have enough time to go into all of it, but continually educate yourself. Listen to Liz Haselmayer's podcast, and Joey, my son. I'm so proud of them because I call them prophets to their generation. You know, they are really, really educating in a way that you can hear, a way that you can really digest. Take responsibility. Know that you can get well and that your children do not have to be subjected to what's called a genetic illness. Thank you.